just saw that. Fine. There is a program, you open the browser, you interact with the pages of the browser, and that's it. Okay, we never wrote something which could actually be a test case. So Selenium never provides you the facility to build a test case. Okay, Selenium will just, you know, it will give you an interface with which you can say um, interact with the browser or something. Okay, but you cannot build test cases with Selenium. In order to build the test cases, you need to integrate Selenium with a tool like TestNG. Okay, and the first thing is that TestNG has to be installed. All right. So the first step is that you have to install TestNG inside Eclipse as a plugin. Fine. So you go to Google and type TestNG Eclipse, and you will get the first website. Hold on. So you click on the link, install the plugin, and you'll get the details over here. So out here they say that fine, install from update site in Eclipse marketplace. So you can just copy this link. Okay, when you open this link, actually it gives you different versions of TestNG. Install 7.1. Okay, 7.1.0. This is very stable. Okay, so click on this link, copy this link. Okay, go to Eclipse, go to help, install new software. Paste the link. You will get TestNG. Click on it and click on next, 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 and install. In case you already have installed some other version, you can go to already installed over here, and you can uninstall the TestNG from here. Okay, and you can install it again. All right, your Eclipse might give you an error. Ignore that error, and Eclipse will restart. Fine. So this is how you build test and this is how you install TestNG. Okay. Now once this is installed, okay, you can hold on. You can go to File, New, Java Project, and you can see TestNG installation. Okay, and you'll have the source folder. Inside it, I'll make a new class, new package known as test cases, and you can build test cases in TestNG. All right, like for example, I'll just make a new class known as order management. Fine. In TestNG, there is no main function. There are annotations. Like you have the annotation @test, which represents a test case. Okay, I'll make a test case known as say create order. Fine. I'll make another test case. Say publish order, or let's work with one test case first. Okay. Now over here, you can add the TestNG library, and you can import the test annotation. Okay, now uh, out here, uh, if you import this test annotation, okay, then you will not get any error. And if you print inside it, creating an order, okay, and you right click on order management.java and run it as a test change test, this is going to print creating an order. Okay, and you can have further tests like this: publish order. There is no main function. Each function acts like a test case. Okay, so this is a unit testing framework actually, and it can be integrated with Selenium. So it says in the end two test cases, failure 0 skips 0, and under the results of running the test you will see both the tests. Okay, so you can have as many tests in a particular Java file. You can write @test, publish void order payment, and write over here. Okay, and you can have another test, void product or order confirmation. So in one Java file, you can have multiple test cases. All right. So when you run this code, you will find that you will have create order, order confirmation, order payment, and publish order. Okay. Now the order is not the same. The publish order is being executed in the end. However, publish order I had mentioned over here. Okay, don't think that the tests will be executed in the serial order. Okay, you have to give them the priority. Otherwise, they don't execute in the serial order. You have to write over here that this test case has got priority 1, this has the priority 2, this has 3, and this has 4. So you have to prioritize your test cases. Fine. And when you run this code, you will see that now they will run in the right priority. Okay. Now the thing is, sometimes you have to fail a test case. Okay. Now what happens is that in testing, when we do testing, we have an expected value, and generally we have some actual value. In testing, we compare the expected value with the actual value, right? So out here, what is the what is the way in which we can do that? Suppose expected value can be kept in an Excel file. Actual value you can get it from the website, like driver.get title will give you the title of the web page, and the expected title you can actually keep it in your you know uh, in your um, Excel file or JSON file or anywhere. Fine. Now, once you have this, okay, you print this, and if you not print this, if you have to compare, you have to write assert dot assert. So assert is a class. You can, it will get imported from org.testng.assert package. Okay, so out here, you have to give some actual value with some expected value. If both of them are equal, the assertion will pass. Fine. When you run this code, you will see that no error comes up. There are zero failures. However, if you write A asserted with B, both of them are different. So you will have one test failed. Okay. You have this test failed. It is written expected B but found A. Okay. And sometimes you are very sure that test has failed. For example, you send a request and you get a 404 error, or you reach a page where you never had to reach, so you are very sure that you want to fail a test case without any comparison, so you can just fail it directly as well. You can write assert.fail with some error message. Okay, so when you run this code, it will see, but the other tests are executed. This one gets failed. What if you don't want to execute them and all? We'll talk about that. Okay, now this is a hard assertion. That is, if you use this type of assertion in a test case, then the test stops. Okay, if the assertion fails. If I print over here creating order starting and creating order ending, and suppose in between when you are creating the order, you get a critical failure and you write assert.fail. Fine. If you run this code, it will print creating order starting, but it never printed creating order ending. Okay, so if assert.fail is failing the test case, then you simply stop everything over here. Fine. So the entire the entire flow, all right, stops out here. Fine. So how do you stop this? Okay, how do you stop it from stopping? Suppose you would get an error which is not critical. Okay, so how do you manage that? Okay, so to do that, you know, you have to use soft assertions. All right, and in soft assertions, there is a class known as soft assert. You create the object of this particular class, and you can write over here soft assert dot assert true or assert equals some A compared with B, and you compare XYZ with ABC, and you can compare everything, anything, and maybe you you can also write soft assert dot simply fail the test case with the failure message. So you have got one, two, two failures. This will not be the failure because this is a pass. Both of them are equal, and three failures. And in the end, it is mandatory to write when the function ends. You should always write soft assert dot assert all. If this line is not executed, then failures will not be reported. So this is like a bag. It will keep on collecting the errors. And when you write soft assert dot assert all, it will throw the errors and stop the. If the program has got any failure, it will stop it on that particular line. Okay. So this is the generally the last line. Okay, and if you look at this, then if you look at the failed one, so it's reporting three failures. Okay, so you can have soft assert, right? And moreover, if you right click and refresh the project, you will have an test output folder generated. This folder will have the index.html file, which you can use. Okay, and this is index.html. This is the HTML report. Fine. So, but not very impressive. It cannot be given to the client. We will see how to build better reports. Okay, in the project we'll see that. But these are default test-ng reports. They are not so impressive. Okay. Now in test-ng, you also have some other annotations. This is at the rate test, right? So you have an annotation like at the rate before method. Okay. So this annotation, if you look at it, I will write over here before method, and there is another annotation like after method. So you can place these annotations anywhere. There is no hard and fast rule that in a class you need to place them here or there. Okay, so you have this after method. Fine. And when you run this, you have this printed. You see, before method is executed before executing any particular test function, and after method is executed after the test function is over, no matter whether the test function is producing a successful output or a failure output. Before and after every test function, these methods will be called. Suppose for all these tests, later on we will see that you want to generate different reports. Okay, so in before method you can initialize the reports, and in after method you can finalize the reports. Or maybe, as the project demands, you can open the browser in before method for every particular function and close the browser, no matter whether the test passes, fails, the browser will be closed every time. Right. And you can also um, you know do initializations for the test case. Okay, if you have suppose some data loadings for the particular test case which is to be executed. You can load the data in before method. It is completely your choice. Okay. And similarly, the position of these functions, it doesn't matter. Okay, you can place these functions anywhere. There is a predefined order according to which they work. Okay, and there is another annotation known as before test. All right, so what does this do? We'll see that. So this is after. Fine. So when you run this code, before test is executed before all the test cases they run, and after test is executed after all the test cases they run. So basically in before test you can do the initializations which are common for all the test cases. Maybe you want to initialize a connection to database which all the test cases want. Okay, or maybe you want that all the test cases should run on a single browser, so you can simply open the browser over here. It's again depending on the project requirement, on the client requirement, everything. Okay, so you have got these annotations and they help us a lot. Okay, like in when you run Selenium Grid, in Selenium Grid the test cases run parallelly. So we have to make sure in Grid that the test we close the browser in the end, because if you're not closing the browser in the end, then uh, Grid never comes to know that the test case is over. All right. So we can close the browser mandatorily in the after method function. No matter whether there is a critical failure in the test case or a non-critical, after method will always execute and you can simply close the browser. Okay, so pretty simple things. The only thing is you should have mm, the experience to apply them at the right place. Okay, and that only comes up when you do one or two. Maybe you can start with a small project and that's how it comes up. Fine. Now anyways, right, this is about basics of test ng. That is, you have got test annotations, you have got before test, you have got after test, you have got before method, after method. Okay, and you have got assertions with which you pass or fail the test case. Apart from this, in TestNG, you also have a process with which you can, you know, run a test like, for example, I'll say login test. I can run this test in TestNG multiple times with different sets of data. Okay, suppose I want to practice running the login test 3 times. Okay, so I can make this function. Okay, and I can print over here, say logging in. But what if I have to run this test multiple times with different sets of data? So how do you manage this? Okay, so we use a data provider over here. So the first step is that you build another annotation known as data provider. As the name suggests, it will provide the data to this particular test case. Fine. So the first step is that you have to build the data provider. Okay. And then this data provider will return you a two-dimensional object array. Okay, so out here you create this two-dimensional object array known as, say, data. Now why do we create a two-dimensional object array? Okay, the object array will have certain number of rows and columns, say 3 rows and 2 columns. So in every row we keep the test data actually. Okay, like for example in row 1 I can keep the data like this, that in the row 1 my username is say u1 and my password is say p1, and in row number 2 row number 2 is u2 p2. Okay, so this should be 1, and similarly you have this row number 3 u. Okay, so in each row you fill up the data and you return the data. So this test function will be mapped to this data provider. Okay, in this data provider there are 3 rows. So there are 3 sets of data, and every set of data has got two, you can say two sets of two data sets. Okay, so out here you can map this test to the data provider. You have to tell this test case that your data provider is get data. You have to map the test with the data provider. And then you have to, most important thing, if this data provider has got 2 columns, okay, then you have to pass over two variables. So this is the last step. The number of input parameters in this function should be equal to number of columns. Okay, and you can print over here username, password. Okay, so when you run this code, you will see that this test will run 3 times. First, automatically it executed with u1 p1, then u2 p2, then u3 p3. So TestNG understands automatically that fine, this is the test case, this is the data provider. It goes in the data provider, it sees that fine, I have to run it 3 times. So it automatically calls this test case. First, it just passes the first set of data, then the second, and then the third. Okay.
Ashish,
Yeah.
hi, can you just walk through from line number 17? Public object. What is that object? Is object is a keyword or get data is
This
a
is internal class in Java.
okay.
Actually, in object class, you can write, if I write object x equals to 100, or if I write object y equals to 100, it can accept string, integers, anything. Okay. Like in my second set of data, if you have a number, you can put a number as well.
And the get data method is that
I've made it. So if you
okay.
are, yeah, if you are keeping it integer, then you have to make this integer as well. Okay. Otherwise, it won't work. So this thing runs. Okay. So the mapping, everything is done internally. You just have to create a two-dimensional object array. Okay, and simply put the data inside it. The
So the
mapping,
line. Sorry. Please continue.
yeah, you can tell me.
Yeah, this get data, I just lost a bit. So this object is the, I know what it is. Get data is the method. Uh, is this, where does this method live? Which class does this get data method reside in?
Login test.
Ah, okay, okay.
This is the
But
function name, right? I can name it anything. If I
uh,
keep it XYZ, then I in the test I have to mention XYZ over here.
but okay.
Okay. So this will run fine, right? So, but the problem with data provider is, say after logging in, I have to create an order. Okay, so I write at the rate test public void create order, fine. And if I print over here creating order, so for all the three IDs I need to create an order. Okay, I'm logging in 3 times, I want to create the order 3 times. You will see that this particular creating an order. Okay, let me just give the priority as well. Let me give, you can give, put a comma, and then you can write priority of this test is 1, and priority of this particular test is 2. So you can run this now and you will see that create order will just execute once. It runs login test 3 times because login test is associated with the data provider, but create order is just executed once. What we want is that the first test execution should be done, then create order should be called, then next time with data provider the test should again run, and you know maybe log in with the next set of data, and then create order should again be executed. Okay, and maybe create order hasn't got a data, it's a process to create an order. There is no data for example, for this particular test, or even if there is a data, it will be from some other data provider. So this is the limitation of using data provider, which TestNG has got. Okay, that is, if you are using a data provider with a test, it will keep on running the same test again and again. But the tests which are after that, it will only run them once. Okay, so
And
we want, yeah,
sorry, check. Does this data provider has to be within the login test, or can it be called from any other class file?
we can keep data provider in the other class. I'll tell you how to do that. Okay, that is possible. But
Okay.
I don't prefer to use a data provider because of this problem. I'm logging in 3 times, but the create order is just executing once.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so at times you want to run the test with some positive data, negative data, and you have to run multiple @test annotation functions in a single file. So the problem which comes up is that one function itself runs 3 times continuously. So that is the thing.
Okay, so
So
it's better to use within the class.
even if you use outside the class, you'll have the same problem. Okay, so wherever you use data provider will just make the test case run multiple times. What I want the output something like this. Right now, output is like this. I wanted output like this. Okay, that you execute once, then create order, then execute once, then create order. So this is not possible with data provider. So there are other ways. We'll look at those. All right. So these are some very basic features of TestNG. If I want to run both the tests together, okay, then you select them, right click on them, make sure you both have both of them selected. Go to TestNG and select create TestNG class or convert to TestNG, sorry, not create TestNG, convert to TestNG and click on finish. So you will have an XML file generated, testng.xml. Okay, so in this you have a test suite. You can give the suite name as my suite, anything. Okay, and inside that suite you have got single test, and it's actually put up both the classes in a single test. Hold on, I'll make two different tests. This is my first test. So this is an XML file. Okay, and I'll name as the first test as the login test, which has got this particular class, and the next test as order management test or anything, which has got class. Okay, so this is a test suite. This is the first test case in the test suite, and this is the second test case in the test suite. All right, and when you run this, both the suites will be executed together. Yes, in this XML, whatever test cases you do not both the suites, whatever test cases are there, all of them will be executed from top to bottom. The order is from top to bottom. So every test has to define that which test case it is, which Java file the test cases are residing in. Fine, and you see that login test is executed first and then order management. And there is a failure in order management. So you can batch run the test cases as well by simply creating this XML. Fine. So you have got test cases in a single file. You have before test annotation. You have after test. You have the test annotation. Before method, after method. You can pass or fail the test case. You have assertions, soft assertions, and you have a data provider as well with which you can run one test case multiple times. Okay, and if you run a Java file, all the tests under the Java file are executed. If you use testng.xml, then all you can mention different Java files as part of every test over here. Now make sure in testng.xml, this name can be any name. I can give this name anything, but this name has to be the fully qualified name of the class. If you make any mistake in this name, then you will get an error. Fully qualified means you should have the package name first, then the class names. Okay, right. This is about TestNG. We are going to use it in our data driven framework. Okay, I'll stop here. Okay, look, I don't want to just rush up with things. Okay, it's more than enough. All right, just you know, digest it a little bit. It is different than Selenium. TestNG is not built for Selenium. It's a different tool to build test cases. We write the TestNG scripts inside the test cases. Okay, right. So, you know, this is how